Hello, everyone. I'm the okayest bassist, and this is the BASSics, Volume 14. Chris Volpini will be our guest again today. Today, he's supposed to be talking about strings, like string construction, which ones, I believe he's going to talk about, like which ones give you what kind of sound. Whole bunch of cool stuff like that. Still waiting for him to show up so he can come in. As no one will be surprised, my preferred screen or string is the Diodario ETB 92 -5 for a 5 string. But we do have a surprise guest waiting in the wings. I wish we had Sono Jono to cue up the air horns and people screaming, but hello, Hondo! Oh, whatever Sono does, I don't know. How's it going, sir? I cannot hear you. I don't know if that's just me. Don't know. Till Chris shows up, it'll just be good-looking Hondo over there and then me. There you go. Frame it in. He doesn't need to be heard. He's beautiful. It's all that matters. I may have let him in before he was ready. That seems like what might have happened. I'll blame me.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
There we go.
You're like the Verizon guy, except you have a beard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So until Chris gets here, I know that Hondo, is a fan of the Labellas for their tape wounds. We won't hold that against him, but, it's okay. So you got any info for us on strings and how they're made and what you use for what kind of... No, not so much. None of the tech specs, huh? Okay. How about your preferred string and why?
Oh, man. If I'm getting to pick and there's no like prerequisite for like what type of sound that I'm supposed to be going for, I typically play flats, and
Sure.
I'll do either TI flats or the Dunlop ones.
Not Diodario Chrome.
I haven't played those much yet, so I got to check those out still.
I basically always get Diodario, so get them points and then I get free crap all year.
There you go.
Okay. So prefer flats. Is it the sound that they make? Is it just the like smooth, softer feel, like the tactility more than anything?
Yeah, I think because like I record a lot, so not having to worry
Less
about the
string
string noise is fantastic.
Boom.
Yeah.
Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's I feel like it's like a little bit freeing because you can kind of like move around a little bit more freely since you don't have to worry about the string noise. So I end up playing a little bit different. And they just feel like they feel just super comfortable to me, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I had the rounds, of course, because that's what came on basses. And then I was like, how do I not play strings that feel like barbed wire? And then people were like, oh, try flats. And I was like, cool. And I tried flats and I loved them. I think the first ones I tried were like Ernie Balls. I don't remember which one. They were orange. The letters on it were orange. So I don't know which one those were. And then I ended up trying the Chromes and I liked them a little better. And then I found out about the tape wounds. Because I was like, these flats, like, they feel good, but I'd prefer to not have, 480 pounds of tension on my bass if I
That's
can
fair.
avoid it. And it was like, tape wounds. And it's like they're half the tension. So I end up getting those. And now I think I have 3 or 4 boxes or 3 or 4 of the packs in a drawer over there, just waiting for basses.
Nice.
So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I like tape wounds
I
too.
mean,
I have a set of those
yeah,
on a 6 string that I use quite a bit. I like that. I like them a lot. And it actually has a nice B string too. It's a 32-inch scale with tape wounds on it. The B string is like really solid.
I've heard a lot of people that like that's one of the things like Dingwall and all those who made the 37-inch scale. They're like, you got to get a good B in there. And it's like I've the Diodarios that I use, the B only comes in 34-inch
Mhm.
scale. Like they make a short scale set and a medium scale, but they're only 4
Right.
string. So they don't make a 5 string of those other sets, and you can't, like, even on their single strings, you can't order that, whatever it is,
Mhm.
135 or whatever, you can't order that in a shorter scale. But on, I don't know if you noticed it at the bass house, but the Lignum, of course, it's a 32-inch
Yep.
on the B. So what I had to do, I took some liquid CA glue, super glue, and put it around right above the nut so that the taping wouldn't come
Oh, nice.
unwound. And then I actually had to take the outer metal core off of it because it was too thick to go into the string
Oh, wow.
retainer. So I had to make my own taper is basically what
Wow.
happened. But hey, I've had to do that on every headless bass. I have to do the CA glue because of course once that nylon gets cut,
Yep. It
it'll
starts coming
unravel.
loose. Yeah.
So yeah, have to use that. I use a thin liquid super glue so it'll get through the nylon to the metal. But I've never had a problem of what people complain about, like, oh, it's got a real floppy B string. I've never had that on a tape, and I don't know if that's because all the layers maybe keep it
Could
tighter.
be.
I don't know,
Mm.
but like I know for a lot of short scale strings, they're engineered, and of course when Chris gets here, he'll be able to chime more in on that. But I know a lot of shorter scale strings are made slightly differently because they're a shorter
Mm.
length, but they still want to have that tension. But I mean, these are 34-inch scale, and I've put them on anything from 35 and a half all the way down to a 32. And I've never had one of those Diodarios not have. I mean, you
Mm.
played it. Be on it was
Yep.
fine.
It was solid.
So
Yep. No problems at all.
I did. By the way, I was messaging Gustav today, and I told him your un unknown estimate
Mm.
on what it would go for, and he was very pleased. Now I'm worried because I haven't paid for my second one
Uh-oh.
yet, and I'm worried he's going to be like,
Well,
he did. I was asking him. I was like, a few people when they saw the bass, like, were at NAM, like
mhm.
vendors, were like, "Oh, is that one you found here?" It's like, no. And he goes, "I've wanted to do NAM like for a while, but he's the only one who does them. Like he doesn't have anyone who helps him." And he's like he said it's a good problem to have, but the problem I have is I've never had enough basses at one time or instruments at one time to be able to have a booth, because once he's made something, even if he just doesn't have an order in and he makes something that he designs, it's
Yep. Just
sold.
heads right out the door.
So yeah, he said I currently have 4. So I'm hoping in like 2 or 3 years to be at NAM, but he wants to do a show, of course, in the EU rather
Mm.
than fly all the way here, pay for a NAM booth. But he said in 2 to 3 years he wants to do NAM. I was like, I'll help you run the freaking booth. Like I've freaking sang the glories of a Lignum this whole time, like to everybody who will listen and to plenty who won't listen. So, I mean, I'll stand at a booth and be like, "Let me tell you why these are awesome," and then just show them the
Yep.
price tag. Be like, "This is a good reason
Yeah,
why
I'm
they're
play it
awesome."
first and then show them the price tag.
Yeah, absolutely. Just have it like in because they have the magnetic attached control cavity. Just have the price tag on the inside of that. Be like, let me see how much this is.
Yep.
$2,500.
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't say that Chris. Where's Chris was on chat 2 hours ago. Okay, well that's promising. Hopefully he remembers to show up. I don't know what time zone he's in. I don't know if he's in the same
Yeah,
as
because
me
he's
or not.
over on the East Coast, right?
I
Yes.
think so. Like I don't know how far on the East
Yeah, I think he's
Coast,
close to where I
but
go.
I'm sure
It's like 6 o'clock over there, I think.
well, then if anything, he should have been here for the last 50 minutes waiting. But either way, and if something happened where he can't make it, I understand. We'll try another. It'll just be the Hondo and okayest show today. I don't care.
Cool. Yeah, if you
So
see me looking over
what
here,
you
I'm
got?
working on the follow up to my NAM video.
Oh, the
Yeah,
part
because I'm
two.
working on. There's a lot of stuff that I saw there, and I can talk about it here if you want. But there's stuff that I saw there that was like it wasn't gear in particular, but like I think it might be cool for people who were like learning songs and.
It was like a chick who had a picture of a bass tattooed on her tits. So you decided, hey, that's not gear, but that's pretty cool. Like that GNL
Yeah,
bass.
it was nothing to that degree. No, no. Yeah,
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, hey, I sent that GNL out to everybody. I was like, I don't think any of y'all are putting this in a video, but here you go.
yeah, it's definitely not showing up on the channel. That's for sure.
Rough Guitars had one that was even less friendly.
Okay.
Theirs had specific drawings all over one of theirs. So, yeah. I was like, well, that one won't be on anybody's YouTube channel because their channel will get shut down.
Indeed.
But no, like when you'd said about the part two, I was like, hey, I'd be happy to see your opinions on stuff. Like half the shit that you said, I was looking at it going, huh. And then I'd Google it.
Yeah, that was the goal.
These people have an amp. Google. Dang it. I like that. No.
Yeah.
Like I want something like I love my little Spark 2 because it has the battery and I use wireless. So literally I can just plug in a wireless system and pick it up. Like I went to my brother-in-law's the other day and it has like the 2 1/4 inch for like outs. And I just plugged both wireless systems into that so that they were there and then just picked it up by the handle, had my bass in a bag, and I was gone. I didn't have to bring a power cable because it has a battery. I didn't have to worry about cables because I use wireless systems. And then I had a bass. So it's so easy. The only thing I would like, I think, better is I wish that their Spark Mini, the little 10-watt cube, I wish it did bass well, but I had one. And once the volume was past like 4 or 5, it was just farting the whole time. You just... It's like, okay, well, this isn't
Yeah,
helpful.
you can't deal with that. That's frustrating.
Yeah. For anyone who's watching, I see there's 5. I've been saying I'd do it. Today I recorded audio of every bass that I have.
Nice.
So it's not, there's no video of me playing because nobody needs to see that. But like, you can tell it's me playing because it's not good. So it's pretty obvious. So I'll just have a background. I recorded all of that. But like, I just did the stuff I know how to play. So simple things like, Feel Good Inc.,
Nice.
7 Nation Army, Africa.
It's an interesting collection of songs.
I mean, it's stuff that I Googled what's easy to play, and it was like these. And then what was it? Careless Whisper. That's. I figured I knew I needed something that showed more than like the top 4 frets. So, I mean, Africa goes across all the strings, but it's still only within the top 4 frets.
That's the money zone, man. You don't really need to use.
I mean,
the fret very often.
Just make the rest of it fretless. You don't save money.
Don't even put it in.
I'll tell Gustav I only need up to like just be on the safe side, the 7th fret. Everything after that, whatever. Make it fretless. That would be an awful setup. Can you imagine having it where you don't have fret buzz on the top, but then you're going to have so much string space because you can't do anything
That would
else
be a
with it?
terrible idea.
But
Oh, man.
can we just since we're talking about, terrible ideas, can we talk about companies who we won't name just in case I ever get in good with them who decided multi-scale unlined, well, it was lined at least, multi-scale fretless was a good idea. And then there's other companies who I can't even remember who the company is, or I would name drop them, that think multi-scale unlined fretless is a good idea. You know why? Because screw you, bassists. You don't need to know where notes are. Just intonation and bite. If you can play that unlined multi-scale fretless, and it sounds like, if you could just play that, because
It doesn't matter.
by golly,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. If you can play it, cool. If you can't, that's fine too. It doesn't matter. You are correct. Mrs. Hondo's correct. Whoever's there, they're
Yeah.
correct too.
Yeah.
I would love to take that unlined multi-scale fretless and just hand it to, like, if you were doing bass lessons, just hand it to a
Yeah,
new
here you
player. Be like, here you go. Oh, you can tell when the audio comes out. Like, I'll have pictures of showing like what bass and the signal chain and all that, but you can tell which one when I'm playing the unlined EHB 1005F, the fretless. You can tell. Because it's... Oh, okay. Yeah, there's the note. I'll remember that the next time.
Yeah, I don't know how anybody's gonna. Well, here's the thing: you can play it by yourself all you want, right? But then, as soon as you're playing with another instrument that's actually in tune, I think that's when the problems are gonna start.
I mean, if you have the ear for that intonation to hear it, I can understand why fretless is so cool. Because if your string goes slightly out of tune, you'll just adjust if you can hear that. I can't freaking hear that. I can barely hear when my strings are out of tune, let alone if I'm playing a string that doesn't have frets to hold on to anything. And then you've got the new stuff like the true tone frets where they're all
Oh yeah, the
wiggly.
true
It's
temperament
like, oh,
wiggly guys.
sure.
Yeah.
Something. Yeah. Truly confusing to look at frets because, like, multi-scales, one of those, like, I took to it immediately. I found all of the multi-scales I've played except one, which was one at NAMM, and I played it, and it was at a big name booth. I think you know which one. And I didn't like it. Like, the spacing on it obviously was, I prefer the short scale, but, and it was the more full size, but on that one, it was Sire. I don't care. When I went to play, like, up at the top, my finger was hitting the nut by the G, and I was having to, like, turn my wrist, I felt, to get to the first fret on, like, the B. Like, I don't remember where the neutral fret was. I want to say the neutral fret on it was 12. And I know on, like, EHBs, it's usually the 7. Now, on my Lignum, it's a 12. But, of course, that's 4 inches shorter. So it's a lot less real estate that you have to worry about the spread occurring. So I think it was on 12, and I just remember trying to play it, and I was like, this is, like, weird. My finger I've never hit a nut while trying to play, and it was just a weird thing to happen. I was like, I don't know about this. And again, I know those are prototypes. They're not like the mass produced going out, and they might have gotten feedback from NAMM and people been like, hey, 1 centimeter spacing of how high the string spacing is. Maybe don't put it a centimeter off the fretboard. I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe that's a
what
feature.
made them decide to do that in the first place. Like, just
What?
have the,
Do horrible setups at their booth or do a headless multi-scale?
multi-scale.
I don't know. Maybe they watch my channel and they were like, you know what?
That was
This
definitely
guy,
it.
his 112 subscribers.
Yeah, that was definitely it.
This is the move. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I told Leah, I was like, hey, whenever you get yours, if they'll let you send it around to anybody, I would love to make a mediocre video with very poor quality and horrible player playing it. But I mean, hey, I'm willing to do that. I did message Adam from Close earlier because I was like, hey, you guys had a carbon uke, but it had metal strings
Hmm.
because it didn't have the rubber strings. So I was fascinated. I was like, you mean I can
Huh.
get a U bass, like a uke, that doesn't have the stupid rubber strings that go blah, 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 every time I play
Interesting.
them? And I was like, you know what would be cool? Of course, I would say this. I was like, tape
Yep.
wounds. I had one of the bowl back applause basses, applause by Ovation. It was a 70s model, and I put tape wounds on it, and it sounded
Huh.
phenomenal. Like you would if you like when the people play like guitars, like acoustic guitars, and they're doing like slaps and pops and like dribbling their fingers on it. It had so much percussive sound with those tape wounds. It was so good. And I only sold it because I was like, I never
Mm.
played it. I ended up getting a U bass, which was like 3 times more portable because it was like a third the
Yeah, those are
size.
tiny.
So it was like, yeah. I mean, I have one. So it's just for like, hey, I'm gonna go outside and play, and I don't want to carry a nice bass outside next to smoke from a fire and set up an
Yep.
amp. So I'm just gonna grab this thing. So, but I messaged Adam. I was like, so you guys have one of those you send around and let people try? Because I would love to throw some tape wounds on. And he's like, what strings are they? Send me a link. It's like, but you didn't say if you're gonna send me a U bass to try. Like
And my
he
original
told me he'd
question.
give me a really he offered me a really good deal to buy one. I was like, but I don't know if I want to buy it.
Yeah, I can't see myself
So
in that.
they're like it was bigger than the U base I have, but not by a whole lot. Like I'd have to look at the actual dimensions, but I messed with it there, and I mean it sounded cool. And of course, being carbon fiber, you're never worrying about a problem with like, oh, it
Nope.
warped. No, it
Yeah,
didn't.
don't got to worry about that.
Not unless you hit it against something really hard.
Yep, don't got to worry about that. That's the thing I like about having the my aluminum neck base with the carbon fiber fretboard and the steel
Oh,
frets. I'm like, I don't ever have to worry about anything.
that neck, that
Yeah, it's
neck's
like that
good.
neck's good. The frets will last forever. I don't have to worry about it.
Well, we have Chris Volpini in the house. He's gray and he looks like a pill on top of a folded box. So he looks way different than when that. Oh,
Hey,
hey, now he looks more like he did when I saw him before. He is staring at the screen.
Can you hear me?
I believe
yep,
he is getting.
yeah, you
I can
know.
hear
Alright.
you. Yes.
Well, I'm so sorry.
Hey. Oh, you're fine. I told Hondo earlier, I was like, if Chris had something happen that he can't get on here, that's fine. It'll just be the Chris and Hondo. It'll be the Travis and Hondo show
Probably
for a
more
little bit. That's
entertaining
fine.
anyway.
Well, I mean, no one's complained about it yet, so I don't know. I haven't been looking at chat actually. Let's see.
Yeah, I'm still trying to cough
Some
out
lovely
what I have left
chaps.
of the Namflex. So,
We're lovely chaps, according to Dibble, who could easily hop in here. Proper could hop in. We could have everybody in here. Let Chris have a whole lecture room worth of faces to talk to
Oh
about how strings are made.
god. Yeah.
Proper, you don't have to, it doesn't matter if you're sloppy. You can still play fretless, just play badly like I do.
I have an upright.
It's great. If you're not a good player, just own it. Stand there
that's
confidently.
right.
That's right. I assaulted your ears, but you came here anyway.
You know what they say? It's 70% how you look. It's only 20% how you sound. 10% what you actually play.
No, I thought they were saying that about my looks. It was only about a 70% is what they were rating me. But I mean, I'll I'll
Probably
take
30
either
more
way.
than I
If it's 70% of how I look and I rate a 70%, that's 49% of the way right there. I'm almost half. And I'm the okayest, so I'm right in the middle. So that fits perfectly. Math. So, Chris, we talked about Hondo. Hondo said how he likes the flats. They're
Yeah.
smooth, but they got the high tension. Likes tapes. I, of course, like tapes. That's the only thing I have. So, what you got for us? What? What are your preferred strings? Which ones do you like?
So
Don't have a
yeah,
preferred.
so the oh shit. Let me put this.
It's a lovely
Thank you,
closet. I
thank you. You
appreciate
see
it.
my
Yeah.
flight bag, my old flight bag. But
There you go.
yeah, so the answer is the short answer is it depends on what I'm doing. So for my main act, I kind of uh, it's the good thing about that act is like there's no it's pretty easy, like you can kind of use whatever you want. There's no real um, you're not it's not a closed off thing, but and that includes the strings. Like it's a soul band, like I can make rounds work, I can make flats work, whatever. um, the only time I'm really uh, picky about that sort of thing is in the studio. uh, there's just I think for studio playing, for what I do, I prefer flats. There's no string noise. They always record well. um, I don't like the sound of slap style on flats, but I don't really slap that much. I do if they ask for it, but in which case I'd take a bass with rounds. But yeah, that's 100% a preference thing. But I am very pro flats. I like the SITs and I like the Labellas the best for different reasons.
I want to try a set of SITs flats.
The SIT,
I want to try a set.
I'll send you. Send me an address. I'll just send you.
No.
I have a bunch. I'll send you.
It says you're typing in our chat right now. I don't know how you're managing that. That's pretty skillful. You got your hands crossed and it says Chris. There you go. That's how he does WoW raids by himself. 4 characters, one for each hand and one for each foot.
In the chat over here, or like the private chat
No,
with
in
us?
the BASSics chat, it just had your picture and it had the 3 little wiggly dots. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Hell, I don't know. So yeah, for rounds, I like the SIT Fusion rounds. 50 to 105. For some reason, on rounds, I prefer like a heavier gauge on the higher strings. I go 50 to 105 on rounds, and on flats, I tend to go 45 to 105.
I think the tapes I think Diodario's tapes are 105 to 50 on the 4-string.
I do have 2 basses with Diodario black nylon.
Well, that's all they do. I wish they were.
The
Labella got all the colors.
Go ahead. Well, Labella, the black nylon tapes, I like the way they sound better than the Diodarios, and they definitely stay in tune better.
Yeah.
But the tension, I can't. I like my action pretty low, and I can never get them to not buzz. So I like the Diodarios because I can kind of get both. And yeah, I mean, a lot of companies aren't making tapes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Diodario only does it in their black, and then we were talking about it earlier. They have 4-string short scale, 4-string medium scale, and then they have the 4 and 5-string in 34-inch, and that's it. But I mean, Labella has all sorts of them. You can get white,
Yeah,
white, gold. There's one. It's weird because on their website they don't list it, but I found on a different website that someone claims they have. I think it's flats by Labella that will fit like a Dingwall, like 37 to 34. But Labella doesn't list it, so it's like, does this one place have like custom order of packs that they get? Because at their booth, Labella had those green.
Labella does that.
At their booth, Labella had those like green ones, the artist signature of those special color strings, which I thought was cool because it's tapes and they're green.
Yeah, if it's like one of their top dealers, they will do stuff like that. I know the amp shop, they do, like, because they have those short scale 6 strings and those 27-inch scale 6 strings and all that, and Labella makes strings for them. So it's entirely possible that some store has Dingwall scale flat wounds. But I would just email him and see what it
Yeah,
would take
I'd
to
asked
get
him
them.
about for like the EHBs. I asked if it was a possibility to get a custom set because of it being. I think the regular EHBs are like 35 to 33 or 35 and a half to 33. And I emailed, I didn't get an answer within like a day, so I just called, and the person I talked to on the phone was like, "Yeah, no, we don't have anything like that. And if you try to do it, the strings are going to unravel because the way the string retainers are." But then I just used super glue and it worked fine. So that's all that mattered. Can't unravel if they're glued down.
That is true.
And also, I'm just me, so they might be like, "Why go through all the trouble to engineer one set for a guy?"
Yeah, those multi scales, man. It's just it's gonna be a while before it catches up. I think because I think it's kind of like falling out of favor now a little bit.
I mean,
I don't
Sire
know
just
though.
put out a headless multi-scale, so
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, I mean, I think
EHB put out 3 more.
yeah, I think the one particular brand that like started it off, I think, is probably not. I think it's like I think there comes a point where things kind of get like saturated. You know what I mean? It's just like everybody,
Hmm.
you see everybody, especially like, people that are playing like in the hard rock metal genres. It's like so many folks are using like the exact same model of bass. And I feel like people are like, all right, like what else is out there? Let me check out some other
Yeah.
stuff.
And then, like, I think it's funny because, like you said, it could be slightly falling out of favor, but you got Dingwall who has the multi-scale, and then I asked that their booth, and I know they've been asked multiple years because people say they've asked, and I was like, same question. Do you guys have a company you recommend to buy flats from? I know no one's going to make tapes. No one's going to make tape wounds because they're lowest of the tiers of seller. And the guy's only answer was, "We hope to have something next year."
But
So, like,
yeah, that's it's so weird. I guess you know. See, but it doesn't make sense because Labella they make upright bass
Yeah,
strings.
right?
So how is it that much more
I mean, and
difficult?
like you'd said I mean, you would know best out of this, but like even for multi-scaling, like if all you're doing is figuring out the distance from silk to silk, and then you can count. I mean, obviously where the string sets for, like if it's a headless instrument, you got to figure out where it's setting for the tuner portion to hold the ball in to pull it farther away. And that is a thing. Like I've gotten a hold of a guy named George Santos from Diodario. He's usually the only person I've ever had when I've had an issue with a string who's responded. Like he's always the one responding. And he had told me the typical, like, "Hey, measure from your saddle to the nut. Tell me how long that is, and then I'll see if we have it." And of course, they don't do like a custom order set of strings either because I've asked. But like, I mean, it obviously every multi scale is going to be slightly different because where is it sitting on the nut? How far back is the string retainer? Like, look at Close's headless. Their headless system has the string retainers way back from the nut as compared to something like an EHB.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I can understand why headless would be a problem, but if it's not headless, the multi-scale, like a Dingwall, they don't have a headless. So I do find it confusing. Like you can make a string that'll fit a 37, 30. Like Labella has ones that are like, I think they're called extra long, and they say from silk to silk's 38 inch. And I put one on a 37-inch scale, and it was about a half inch too short. Like the silk was sitting on the nut, and there was about a half inch of silk.
Oh, I would just
Oh,
cut
I
it
did.
away.
Like I didn't. Yeah, I didn't. It worked.
Oh,
I had
okay. I was
to.
gonna
I
say
did, but
just
the
cut that.
string tapers, so I did have to like shim underneath the string, and then I ended up just taking it and wrapping a little bit of just Scotch tape on it, and it slid across the nut fine. But
Mhm.
like it worked.
Did you try string plug?
I contacted them and they didn't answer me. So I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't have anything that's 37-inch scale, so I don't have to worry about it. The Diodarios work for up to a 35 and a half, and that like I put them on the Strandberg, and there's a little bit of the silk, like the beginning of the silk is sitting right on the outside of the nut, but it has a 0 fret, so it was a non-problem. But
You like those
I'm
Strandberg?
liking this one. I really
That neck
I
is
like the
weird.
shape. It has, like, my hand gets confused because of the shape. It's not round. So part of me keeps thinking, why am I playing a baseball bat? Because it's deeper. But then after I play it for a couple minutes, it's like, this is comfy. Like, I don't mind it. I was
I didn't dislike it, but it was just I was just kind of it just seemed pointless to me. I was just kind of like,
I was irritated when I looked at Nam and I thought it was a new of the Bowden bases. It's some artist signature, and it's like Tonka truck yellow, and it had, like, I think a blue and a red pickup with, like, all these different colored knobs. It looked like someone had asked a kindergartner to draw a base, and they just gave them all the crayons, and they did. But there was a
You
five
sure it
string.
wasn't Jacob Collier's?
I don't know, like, it's an artist signature, and there's a five
Yeah.
string. It's a 5-string guitar.
Yep, that's his. That's
Yeah,
his.
I saw it and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, because I saw it from a distance and I saw 5 tuners, and I was like, I am canceling the order of the one that I have. I don't care that I saved $700. I'm going to get the freaking one that looks like my kid drew it. That's amazing. And then I saw it was a 5-string guitar, and I asked him, I was like, does this come in a bass? And the only answer I got was, oh, well, you'll have to contact so and so. I was like, no, I'm not. No, because at that point you're going to send me to, like, custom shop, and it's going to be, oh, you want the regular one? That'll be $3,800, whereas I got mine for $1,972 with tax and shipping, because there was no tax and there was no shipping.
No, it's Stramberg. It'll probably be way more than that.
Well, I was being hopeful.
not too bad, are they?
Strandberg, the
Like
Bowden
horrible,
standard bases are 2,500, and the Progs, if you can still get the 2021 series for Progs, they're like 33 to 38.
Yeah.
25
No,
isn't horrible.
it's not, and I mean, if you don't mind that neck, it's super comfy. I was kind of upset because when I looked at it online, it said has 3 voicings, and it's like modern, passive, and I think the other one's like scooped or something. I don't remember. So I asked.
So it just changes the
I don't
range
know.
adjustment.
I just asked while I was
basically.
playing it at the booth, and the guy came up, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure, which way do I flip this switch to put it in passive? And he's like, it doesn't have passive. I was like, no, it does. Your website says it has passive. And he's like, it's a passive voice.
Right.
There is no. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, it's a Fishman Fluent. They're not a traditional pickup. They have to have power running to them in order to operate. So it sounds okay. I like it. I mean, that.
Yeah, I've only played a couple bases with those fluents, but
I do what I always do. I set the settings on the base where I want it, and then for all of me, I could super glue all of the controls in place because I'm not going to change them except maybe the volume knob. So I got it set where I liked it, and it has a lot more attack than, like, any of the other pickups I have. Like, every pluck of the string you hear while you're doing it, but then the tone's okay and good. So I like it, but I mean, it's comfy. I mean, it's definitely not my Lignum, but it's still nice.
I've never. Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I need to sit with one for a while because it's always like I had a close space with them at my house, but for a little bit, but it's yeah, I couldn't just couldn't get a sound out of it that I really liked. There was like a couple that were okay.
On the Strandberg or on a close?
So
Oh,
close. It was a close, but had the fluence pickup.
Yeah, I find they're like different from base to base because, like, in the closest that I played at NAM, they were pretty good. And in the Strandbergs, they sound entirely different than the way they sounded in the Spectre that I had. Because, like, I had one of the multi-scale Spectres, and with that one, it was like the low end on it was just so big. I had to, like, turn the bass control on the preamp almost all the way off for it not to just destroy everything.
and I wonder if that's the preamp more than the fluence. So, because the way the fluents are designed, like, I haven't gone super in depth on them, but like the way the fluents are designed is, my understanding is they have literally an active circuit for the pickup that notices the vibrations above it. It's not like a magnetic resonance field breaking. So, like, sky's the limit on an active circuit, because that's what the pickup is, and it's not just a normal active pickup. It's magic, basically, from everything I can read. It's some sort of sorcery trapped inside of a housing.
I know. Yeah, maybe I just need
I
more
thought about
time with some of them.
my next Lignum having a triple fluent setup, and then I was like, I don't want a battery, so no. That's the only problem.
Yeah, car battery for that one.
No, I was thinking have it run off one of those that's like about that big that you put in the huge flashlights, those 6-volt batteries that weigh like
Yep.
5 pounds. Just run a wire from it, have the
Yeah.
big battery on the
Duct tape
strap.
it to your bass strap, man.
Yeah, heck yeah. Somebody tries to take the base, I have a flail.
Yep, there you go.
So we're doing.
Yeah.
We're talking strings. How do we want to start
In
this?
the beginning, there was cat
Okay.
gut stretched between
So-
2 points, and people picked on it. No,
I
it
mean,
was.
it
It was
probably
cat gut.
was, and it was probably Labella making them. They've been around for like.
Hondo's laughing. Look it up.
I don't know.
Cat gut strings.
It's a very old company.
I wouldn't get any vintage strings at that point.
But-
They smell a little funky.
But yeah, so flat wounds are. I guess we'll start with flat wounds. All that is a round wound that is run through a grinder essentially, and then some, like Labella will do the polishing process as well, which is why they feel so smooth and slick and nice. Like SIT does not do that, and I like both of them, so they're different though. It's noticeably different. It's like a satin versus a gloss neck almost, in a way. But I like them both. Flat wounds tend to have more tension. You tend to leave them on longer. They get better with age. And they're kind of limited, and it doesn't. I've heard people slap on them and sound good, but it usually doesn't. And
So does that mean that when they do the outer wrapping, that they use? I guess they would have to use like super thick. Like if they're polishing it and grinding it down to be flat, that means they have to be going towards the middle of that outer wrapping layer. So they must be making them super thick at first.
Unfortunately, I would guess so too, especially since when you consider back in the day, flats were like 110 instead of 105. But honestly, the string company I worked for, we never made flats. So I don't have any firsthand experience in the manufacturing of them. That's why I wanted to get them out of the way first, because
Gotcha.
I don't know very much.
Aren't there some companies too that like put an outer ribbon wrap? I've heard that before, that there's companies that have like a metal sheathing that goes all the way around the outside. And you may not know because you've not built them.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but at the same point, if you have the thicker wire, it's the same effect. I don't know what the difference would be.
You're the string guy. I don't know anything.
Yeah, I know. It's a very large hole in the resume, but that's actually a fact for a lot of companies, is they don't make their own flats. Most of your smaller manufacturers, because that grinder is expensive, and if you're a smaller operation, it's you got to be more judicious with your money. So it's not uncommon to farm it out. Diodera makes a lot of companies flats for them, and then there's always Mapes. Mapes is they don't have their own brand, but they manufacture for several brands. Yeah, typically it's just a round wound string that's run through a grinder and then possibly polished, and that can be done by hand or through a machine. I think Labella does it by hand. I think they do it the best, honestly. The most polished flats, they feel kind of weird by comparison. Like Dunlop makes a polished flat, I believe, but I'm not certain. But as far as round wounds go, most the 101 level knowledge is typically either a round or a hex core with a wrap around it. If typically stainless steel or some sort of and a nickel, and then some sort of hybrid alloy, is what most string companies seem to be doing now. But so obviously with your stainless steel, they should last longer, but and sound a little bit brighter. But they are harder on your hands and harder on your frets. Nickel is what I think most people go for because they tend to sound better and they don't last as long, but they're also not as hard on your
Does the
frets.
core, I mean, I've seen like the PR stuff from, oh, we have a round core, we have a hex core. Does that make a huge difference?
So yeah, um, I that's hard to say definitively. It definitely makes a difference, I believe, um, but it's hard to say definitively because there's very few companies making strings on both, like having a hex option and a round option. They usually either one or the other. DR strings is a round core string. I do think that they may have recently started doing something with hex, but I can't remember. Um, but those are all round core strings, and they tend to sound warmer, but they tend to have more problems with breakages and just longevity issues. That's been my experience with DRs. Like they sound awesome, like probably one of my favorite sounding strings, but they don't last
And
very
I would
long for me.
suspect like the one of the things for flats versus rounds that I've heard, and it makes plenty of sense, when something's a round wound, because the outside isn't perfectly flat and it has all the ridges, it's going to hold things like
Mhm.
oils, it's going to get dirt in it, so it's going to corrode faster because it can hold that.
So
I would think that a round core should last a bit longer because you don't have the gaps inside that are inevitably going to get some sort of debris, oil, liquid, whatever inside from who knows what, playing humidity, people eating a cheeseburger at Guitar Center on the bass and then deciding to play it, then hanging it back up. So, I mean that's one thing. I mean, obviously different companies have their PR of ours is a hex core, so that means this is better, but
I'm of the mindset that hex score is better across the board.
is there a reason?
Just for the fact, yeah. Well, I think you can do other things to make it sound similar, but with the hex core, there's more stability to it. That's what they tend to
Mm.
stay in tune better because you got to think that so your wrap has your core
Mm-hmm.
has corners. So
Something
as
to
you're
grip.
wrapping it, it's digging into those corners and it's holding it tighter. Um, it's
Mm-hmm.
friction. You know, around core, it's just not it's not as tight. Like I think I'm. It's kind of like. Uh, so with the round core strings, it's kind of everything's round, right? So it
Sure.
unwinds easier. There's nothing. It's
Mm.
just a slicker surface. And to your point about corrosion, uh, I don't I don't really see the shape of the core having anything to do with having much to do with corrosion, um, because you're also like plucking these strings and they're constantly like shaking things off as well, and but you are right that corrosion starts from the core wire. It doesn't start from the wrap because your gunk on your hands gets in between those and it's like a tree. It
Mm.
rots from the inside out. Uh, so it's there's things you can do, right? You can do the coatings, but then that changes the feel. I don't personally like the feel of the coated
Hondo
string.
apparently doesn't either.
Um,
You
I
know,
heard his eyes roll.
yeah, there. I don't like them. They've gotten better, I will say, over the years. They have gotten
They're made
better.
thinner for our
I remember
pleasure.
back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I remember back when if you got coated strings, they were like it's like felt like if you buy an old gun with the cosmoline on it. It's just like it was crazy, and but they've gotten a lot better. But what we kind of pioneered in MJC Ironworks was treated strings, and that's another option now. So just like firearms, a way to store. Back then they used cosmoline, they used a coating. Now there are things that are emitters. They're just on a sponge, and you put them in the packaging with it, and it'll bind to metal, and it basically just keeps the oxygen off of the metal.
So kind of like putting a
And
silica
that's
tab
what we used
inside of
to.
a package helps keep the moisture off of whatever's in there.
Yeah, same idea. So what we did, we used a company called RN Protects, and that the thing that we did differently. So Diodario, well, there are a few companies now doing treated strings, but what we did differently was we treated the core wire. This goes back to what we were talking about with corrosion. We treated the core wire and then treated the wrap wire on top of it. Now, where does corrosion start? Core wire. Most companies that are doing the treated strings are making the strings, like completing manufacturing, wrapping the core, and then treating the string as a whole. Well, that's not leaving out it's not getting to the core wire. It's binding, because that's what it does, is it binds to the metal. So it's binding to the wrap wire. It's not getting to the core wire, which is where
It's
your
like
corrosion
tempering just
starts.
the edge on a knife instead of the entire blade. You're
Yeah, I mean, I can't come up with an analogy of it. The string is the analogy for me, but it does. I'm not going to say it doesn't do anything, but it doesn't work the same way if you don't treat the
sure.
core wire. Um,
So then on rounds, you talked about like the
so
core. You had said something before. One of the things that you'd said like ratios or like how it's wrapped makes a difference too. So
yeah, well, that's mostly a feel thing, but it does contribute to corrosion too, because the gaps aren't as big. If you have more core to wrap ratio, if you have more wraps around the core, then the gaps aren't as big, and less the gunk it takes longer for the gunk to work its way down. Um, so cheaper strings, they tend to feel rougher. That's because they're doing the lower core to wrap ratio, because they're making a budget string. Um, and it's mostly a feel thing, but it also helps with like tuning stability. It just makes the structure, there's more metal, so it makes the structure stronger, so it takes longer for it to move. um, and I forget where I was going, but yeah, so the higher core wrap ratio, the more quality of the string, the smoother it's going to feel. um, That's, I think, SIT, I'm doing a commercial. I think they do a good job with their quarter wrap ratio. I also think Dunlop does a fantastic job with that, um, and DR too, concerning quarter wrap ratio. I would
so
say they do
basically
very well.
everyone but Diodario and Ernie Ball. Gotcha.
I'm not
Oh, okay.
disparaging anybody. My preference is not Diodario or any ball strings, um, and that's part of it.
So you
They
and
feel
you'd
rougher.
mentioned a material like nickel versus stainless and all that. Um, did you guys with MJC? Did you also do acoustic strings as well? Because I know those use like whatever phosphor bronze and stuff like that because they're
Well, Osborons or 80/20. We didn't do acoustic bass strings, but we did acoustic guitar strings, and they're you know, um, it's yeah, the Phosphorons. So 80/20, and they're both mixtures of phosphor and bronze, phosphor and bronze. Um, the white phosphor bronze is just has more in it, and then the 80-20 is 80% copper, 20% uh, phosphor. So, and the end result is brighter sound typically, but I think typically the phos bronze strings do not
Mm.
last as long. So that's the trade off. So like I work at the music shop, and if people ask for recommendations, first thing I ask is what do they play, and if it's a guitar that I know that is brighter, like a Taylor or something, Rain Song, whatever, I would probably recommend the 80-20 strings. Um, but if it's like a Martin or a Gibson, I'll recommend the Boss
And then
Bronze.
on the bass, since you didn't like, obviously the acoustic bass, according to AMP, they're all awful anyway. But so with just talking back about electric bass again, the different materials, like as far as I'm aware, the only materials I've ever seen are stainless steel or nickel. I don't recall having. I mean, I guess you've got like cobalts and stuff like that now too, but
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about with the hybrid alloys. Yeah.
so what's your take on those? Like I've seen people talk on reviews and they're like, "Oh, this particular hybrid alloy is like Diodario lists on their website, they have like their spectrum of their strings and it's things like how mellow versus how bright, but then they also have like a whole chart and it lists like how it feels. Does it feel tactile, I guess is the like I don't know if that's the low number of core wraps or if it's just the material itself, because it seems like tactile is their word that I would use to describe the barbed wire strings. And then they have ones that are natural, they have smooth, and they have soft. So, and obviously soft is their tape,
Yeah, I mean,
smooth is the chromes. But then outside of that, like in your experience, is it the material also making? Because I mean, again, I'm just me, just a guy, and all I can think is, does the type of metal make a huge difference if the strings are all made and wrapped and all that the same? Does the type of metal change the feel? And I would say I wouldn't think so, but then again, I know that I don't know enough to make that judgment.
I would
Okay.
disagree with you. I think it makes a huge difference. So, in obviously in feel, but in
Yeah,
tone
and the
as
tone. I
well.
just meant like how it feels on your
All
fingers.
those charts and stuff that you're seeing on the packaging, that's all just that's it's good information. But it's also like a law of averages, and it's subjective because your tactile may not be somebody else's tactile, and vice versa. And part of it's marketing. Charts and stuff makes it look all official. But I'm sure that a lot of work went into their rating system at the same time. It's a company with a lot of resources, and I'm sure they have a state of the art R&D department. Um, just because they don't make strings I like doesn't mean they don't make
Well,
good
you like their
strings.
tapes,
You
so
know,
they've got that
uh,
going for them.
I do like their tapes. They're kind of like it's kind of like a good enough thing, but I do like them enough. Um, but
You need to send me a
yeah,
set of tapes you think are good
they
so I can have a comparison.
the deal area. I think the labellas sound better, but they don't have
Hmm.
enough tension. Um, so for me anyway, to be able, it could just be me sucking at doing setups too, you know. Um, but yeah, the alloys are, and it's really interesting what companies are doing now. You mentioned the cobalts for that's Music Man, and the pure blues for DR strings, the Victor what Victor Wooten uses, that's a
I
hybrid
think
alloy.
I
Um,
remember it was a while back, and I don't know if they still do, but I remember I used to get, I think they were made by Ernie Ball, and they had like a titanium infusion. And I remember getting them a couple times, and
yeah,
I loved those strings. They were for electric guitar, but I loved those strings, and then I could never find them again. So I don't know if.
The I use a hybrid alloy string. I use SIT Fusion wounds, and that has like
Mm,
bronze in it, like an acoustic string, and it it's not like a far cry from like the regular power wound or whatever, their regular nickel round wound, but it doesn't, it's not like brighter, I wouldn't say that, but the high end has just a
hmm.
different character that I think that I like. Um, it's just basically accentuating different frequencies, but that's why the alloy is so important
Yeah.
is
I mean,
when
the
it
resonance is
accentuates certain
going to be
frequencies.
different.
It makes a huge difference. Yes, your strings and your pickups and your like and the things that the strings touch have in my opinion, have the greatest
Oh,
effect on your
I
tone.
mean, and there are people who have done the
Way more
tests.
so than any type of wood
Yeah.
that were,
I mean, Bully, we had a discussion at Base House. I don't remember if it was first or second night that Bully was there, where he was asking everybody, like, do you think that, more or less, do you think tone wood is real? And, like, I made the statement of, acoustically, yes. Like, there's a reason acoustic guitars are made of certain woods and not other woods. It's not just an aesthetics thing, it's the
yeah,
sound. But my stance was, do
it's
what?
geography too. It's
Well,
geography
and
too.
my stance,
If they live in the middle of an alder forest, their guitars are going to be
but
alders
like I'd
probably.
said though, when it comes to an electric instrument, so you have an electric bass, it is a piece of
Yep.
metal vibrating, unless you're talking about fluence. It's a piece of metal, being the string, vibrating through a magnetic field from that pickup that is being translated into an electrical impulse that goes through your electronics, through the cable, to whatever else you have. Now, if you're talking about if you're at a live show, my stance, I agree with a gentleman by the name of Glenn Fricker out of Canada who has a show YouTube channel called Spectre Sound Studios, and he's done a bunch of
Oh yeah, I
different
was.
things. If you're at a live show, the speaker that you're coming out of is going to color that sound probably more than the rest of your signal chain, if you're just talking the chain, the signal chain itself. Now, obviously, if you start changing your preamp, if the sound booth guy turns on the suck knob, whatever it is that happens, that is going to change your sound more dramatically. But if you're talking about the actual pieces of your signal chain, that speaker is going to make a huge difference, because how many of you guys all talk about like your amps and stuff that I don't understand half of what you're talking about, and you go, oh, I had a 4x8. Oh, well, I used to have a 2x12 and a 115, and oh, well, this time that I played an 8x10, let me tell. I know those mean the speakers, and y'all talk about how different those sounds are. That speaker's making a difference. But on the subject of the tone wood, here's my stance. What you hear and what you feel as you're playing, that's the resonance of those woods. The way that wood is attached from neck to the body. If it's bolt on, there's obviously a gap, very minor, hopefully, but there's a gap between that neck and that body where the screws are what's holding it together. If it's a set neck, if it's all the way neck through, the vibration going from one end of the string being basically at the nut versus the saddle is going to be different based on the wood it's made of. If it's a thin, lighter wood, it's not going to vibrate as much. If it's a dense wood like ebony, it's going to vibrate more readily because it has that resonance. But when it comes to playing that electric instrument for what anyone else cares, the tone wood's going to make a minuscule, if any, difference, is my opinion, for the fact that, again, it's a pickup seeing a vibration of a string and going through the electronics and sending that out. So if, again, like you said, the string's going to make a huge difference, because how much, when it boils it down, how much iron is in that string is what's interfering with the resonance, because that's why steel has it. It's because iron is what's acting on a magnetic field. So how much iron is in that string is going to change how much it interferes with that magnet. How it's blended in there is going to change it. You can make steel that doesn't react to magnetism. It has low iron count. But the construction of that string is going to make a difference of how it affects the magnetic field. The string is making a huge difference. Is the pickup making a difference? Absolutely. Listen to a single coil versus a humbucker. Immediate difference.
Well, not just types, but
Oh yeah.
location.
I mean, there's a reason that the P pickup.
An eighth of an inch makes a
Yeah.
huge difference because that's where it's picking up.
How
from the
far
wave
is
of
that string vibrating?
So
If it's up towards the neck,
Yes.
it's vibrating a
And-
lot farther. If it's down towards the bridge, it's not vibrating as far. So that's why your bridge pickup's going to sound way different. Than, like if you've got a jazz single coil pickup that's right at the bridge versus a mudbucker right up at the neck, construction made a difference. Location made a difference. How hot is the pickup? Is the pickup like Hondo said earlier? You pick up a Fishman Fluent that's set up in a certain way in one base, the exact same pickup popped into another. This is why I loved what Devin had at Devin Base with the pickup that just pops in and out. That would be so cool for somebody that wants to do a scientific test on all this because everything else can stay exactly the same. You can have the same preamp, you can have the same sound all the way through, and you're literally just changing that pickup itself. That's cool to me. Am I going to buy that to do that? No. But it's really cool. But yeah, I mean, strings, one of my favorite things is someone who, oh, hey, I upgraded the pickups on my guitar, my bass, whatever. And let me tell you, those new ones sounded amazing. And the first thing I ask when people tell me is, did you leave the same strings on or did you put on new strings? Because if you change to a new set of strings, you made 90% of the difference right there, despite what that pickup may or may not have been doing.
Well, I think that's mostly true. But going from like a pole piece pickup to a blade pickup can make quite a difference.
Changing from a standard pickup to a Fishman Fluent's going to be
that
a huge difference.
That would be another question. You know, I would say that would have as much to do with it as if you replace the strings.
Yeah, I mean, it's the scientific method is eliminate one variable at a time. If I go get a bass and I change the pickup and the neck and the strings and I put different tuners and everything else changes, boy, that was good. Okay, but what changed it? Because you did everything different. You might as well have said, boy, this bass sounds really good, but when I hung it up and grabbed a different bass off my wall, man, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just one of those things where there's so many variables that there's going to be like certain things that correlate, but there's always going to be exceptions to everything as well. So I don't know. It's kind of
one of my favorites is like the finish. I love seeing people who argue about this nitrocellulose makes it sound so much. It makes it sound so much better than when they coated it in polyurethane. Oh, okay.
All my satin bases sound better than all of my glossy ones, man.
Well, and it's funny because if you look in the chat, like Oscar's like, great point, wood affects sustain way more than tone. I mean, in an electric instrument, 100%.
Yeah, I think people get.
Like if you somehow like Hondo's bass that has the aluminum neck, you're gonna tell me, oh well, since that neck isn't made of Brazilian rosewood, let me tell you how. Shut up. Like I only got 114 people who subscribe to me, so if I lose a few, that's gonna suck because that's a big percentage. But like, if you're literally going to look at me and go, unless it's made of mahogany neck with a mahogany body and a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard. I saw one person who tried to argue the shape of the headstock made a difference in tone. Okay. Let me grab my
mass of the headstock makes a difference.
I mean, I've got plenty that don't have a head on them and they still have some tone to them. So
because you know what? Do you have any dead spots in any of your headless basses?
Do I have any dead spots?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what that means. So I'm going to go with no.
So yeah, so specifically around like the 5th and 7th fret on the G and the D strings, on a ton of Fender basses in particular, right? They all have a dead spot right there. where the note like it starts and then dies out. But every bass that I've played, it's either headless or has a different style of headstock design, doesn't have that issue. Or if they have a headstock.
Yeah, but that's I disagree because what about carbon fiber necks? They don't have that, and they have a headstock.
Yeah, the mass
like
is different and it's a different material. That makes a bigger difference than anything else. Because
It's probably the nitrocellulose finish. That's on the body. That's what's messing it up.
Well, here's the thing. It's just
This
like,
one that I have that's painted in green has way more sustain than the one that's yellow.
I tell you what, every bass that I have played, every Fender I've ever played has had dead spots, right? And then
that's a
every
feature.
Bass,
it's a feature.
Yeah, it's a specific feature between the 5th and the 7th frets on the G and the D string. Yeah. But
I kind of like that. I don't like things being too perfect, but honestly,
this is why Chris likes me so much because I am far from perfect.
Put a hold and note for more than
but like I like hearing the little. I mean, it's not a mistake. But like the human element. I hate when things are overproduced and it's like too perfect.
Boy, you would love to listen to me play. Let me tell you, there's a lot of human element in there.
That's the authentic part. Everything else is you trying to do something. Like that's.
But so I mean, no, and again, back to strings. I think strings make a huge on an electric instrument. Strings are going to make a huge impact on your tone.
I think it's different. I think that's the.
And if you want an example, what do you play right now? Oh, we'll just use yours as an example. I have SIT Fusions. Okay, how long have you had those on there? Oh, I've had them on there for a year. Here's a new pack. Let's record you playing something right now and then change the strings and then play it again. Huge tonal difference.
See, I never like.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's a huge tonal difference right there is before they're broken in, once they're broken in, and then when they're worn out. Those are huge differences.
Yep.
I don't remember which. There was a thing I had read in a bass magazine about some like long-term band. Like the bassist claimed he'd played the exact same strings for like 40 years. I don't know.
They flats?
It's fine. Yeah.
If they're flats, it makes sense.
If they're rounds, I'm sure he has tetanus and everything else that you can get from old metal.
Well, if they're rounds, they're probably flats now.
Just like ZZ Top's guitarist who plays with a quarter, and he's probably gone through like $50 worth of quarters over the years, just wearing them down.
Joe Osborne, actually, he had his jazz bass stolen because he used to just leave it in the back of his truck and stuff, like not even in a case or anything. But so it got stolen, and he put an ad out in the paper begging. He said, "You can keep the bass. I just want the strings," because they were like 30 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't care about the bass. I can get one that looks like it. Give me my strings.
No, yeah.
They're worn in on the first 5 frets on every string.
I don't hate them. My brain needs my sound to have it. Super brights. Super brights are cool. I like Dunlop strings. I do. I think they do. I think I've never played anything I didn't like. I remember I was in Vegas doing military stuff, and we went to a Sam Ash, and they had a sale on the nickel Marcus Miller Super Brights, and it was like $7 a pack.
That's guitar prices right there.
Yeah, I bought every pack they had, and I used so that whole year. That's what I used for the Marcus Miller Dunlop Super Bright. Nickel
and
round.
that's of course, I'm on the opposite end of prop where I just like flats and tapes, and I like to look at it economically. I can spend $40 to $60 on a set of strings, and then I'm done. I never need to change the strings on that bass again. It's perfect. That's what the guy from SIT said at NAMM. I told him, I was like, yeah, I don't like rounds. And he was talking to Bully and then started talking to me. And I said, I do want to try your guys' flats. He's like, yeah, that's the only strings we like don't give away because we'll see someone like 10 years later who's like, man, I still got that set of flats on there. He's like, yeah, that really helps our sales numbers that you won't change your strings for 10 years. I'm happy I gave them to you for free.
Yeah, I mean, if because I care more about feel, so I prefer the feel of flats. But if the song wants rounds, it's fine.
Fair enough. That's what we were saying earlier. That's why I play tapes. I started on rounds and I hated them. They felt like barbed wire. So I looked around. I was someone on some forum was like, "Oh, I love flats." So I tried flats. I think it was Ernie balls first, and then I tried Diodario's, and then I heard about tape wounds because I didn't like the high tension. So I tried tapes, and that's where I've been. So until someone like throws a set of strings at me that I try that I like better than my tapes, and then if that happens, I'll have to go get a loan from the bank somewhere to change all of my strings out to whatever it is I like better next. But
I would just, I don't know, if you wanted to like see if there's like a set of rounds that you would like, that'd be a kind of a cool endeavor.
the only like the
Just take a
problem
bass.
with doing that with bass is because the string packs aren't normally $7 a piece. So when it's like, I'd love to try out these strings, but they're $40 a pack, and if I don't like them, it's not like when you buy a bass. Like if you buy a bass from like Guitar Center, Musician's Friend, Z-Sounds, Sweetwater, wherever, if you get a bass and you don't like it, you can be like, hey, I'll pay the return shipping. I'm going to send this back. I didn't like it. Can't exactly do that with a $40 pack of strings. And if you're trying 12 kinds of strings, you're out a decent chunk of money by the time you're done. And if you're like kind of like what you said, to me, it's all about the feel of the string. So if I get all these rounds and maybe I really like the sound, but they're not comfortable, I'm not going to play them. So I'm just going to toss them. And then now I'm out, $480 out of strings that I could have gotten, I could have gotten a quarter of another Lignum bass for that.
Hang on 1 second.
One Mississippi.
Sorry, hang on 1
Okay,
second.
so we're back. Hondo, this is what you missed by not being at Bass House for more than like a couple hours, and you got a full dose of it then anyway.
Yeah, I think I got a healthy dose of it.
Yeah, a healthy dose.
The healthy
Not
dose.
not enough to overdose, just enough to dose. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. I try to be. I'm a lot more PC on these than I am when you're around me.
Yep.
I have people at work who like. I don't think anyone at my work knows about this, and I've told some of them, but like I'm pretty sure most of the people at my store like think that I'm how I am at the store all the time, and it's like I can say bad words when I'm not at the store. That's one very big difference if you want to just go with something simple.
Well, you just can't say I'm loud.
Oh, no,
You
I mean,
can't
I say I'm loud
loud
at the store sometimes, just not where anyone can prove it.
Yeah, I say I'm loud in my office. I just shut the door.
See, I don't have that option because we have
Yeah,
we have the whatever you call them, the like suspended ceilings, and my office is right next to the lounge, the break room, and I can hear people just talk. I keep telling my boss, I'm like, y'all need to put some insulation above my ceiling. And he's like, what are you talking about? I was like, because one of these days I'm going to be on a conference call and you're going to say something about, okay, don't tell anybody, but starting next week, we're firing everybody in this department. And they're going to hear it in that room.
Yep.
And then you're going to be mad that my people know about it. And it's going to be, get me a set of headphones then, because like, I'm not just going to sit here. You gave me an iPad.
Yep. Well, that's too funny.
Well, Chris, you got any more sage words of wisdom for us on strings before we wrap it up?
Sorry, I was late.
Do what? Oh, that's
late.
Not sage words of wisdom. We already got over the fact that you were late. We're musicians. No one shows up on time.
Yeah.
You got to go grab the drummer from the bar that he's leaning over asleep to bring him to practice or to the show. So,
see, that's if you're a pro, you show up on time.
Dude.
It's like
Hondo, man, I wish we could have hung out.
Were you down there or no? Oh, okay.
No, I had that little bout with the
Mm,
big C, and I was worried about breathing stuff
yep.
in down there, and so I just thought it was better. I mean, we lost
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
but that's
Well,
fine.
Bully had said something about. I thought it was funny because he was saying he wanted to try to set something up, I guess, like similar to a base house, but not for Nam, like
He mentioned
like
that. Yeah,
equidistant in the
I'm down.
country, and here I am in
I thought you were gonna
here
say
I am in the
Yeah,
Midwest. I just like,
I mean, no matter what, somebody's gonna
well,
luck out. So
I mean, like
may as well be
you're
you.
on the East
Uh,
Coast, and then you got Sono who's on the West Coast.
mhm.
You got Floof who's in Colorado. I don't
hmm
know where Hondo is. He's somewhere. He's somewhere in
I think we should go to
do
Austin.
what? Like
Austin.
Austin, Texas? Oh, okay.
I'm
Let's
not.
say
Yeah.
Bully's down in Texas. I'm hoping Hondo's up in like Minnesota. He sounds like he's
Yeah, but
from Minnesota. Yeah.
No, I'm from the East Coast, but I live on the West Coast now.
Oh, okay. So I just wanted to point out that, Nashville's got music stuff. And
Yeah.
then I
we're in
also I
Nashville.
also had pointed out to Bully after the stream was over that I don't know if you know this, but there's a town called Centralia, and they have a poll they put up every year that is the center of the U.S. population. And it's an hour from me. So obviously everyone should just come to me because I'm in the middle.
I mean, I don't really care.
Coming to me
So-
would not be useful, though,
That's fine.
because there would be nothing for us to go do. Like, that's it. There would be no, like, outings, which would be fine for me. Because every time after NAM, people were going, hey, let's go to this place. Okay. Can we not?
Oscar Reyes likes the foundations. That's what
Bully
Lobster
likes.
Are those like SRTs?
They're fine. They just don't make them 50 to 105. That's
If
I-
only we
you
knew
know,
somebody who
I
was
try
in
'em.
with SIT who could talk to him about that.
Well, I don't have that. I don't have
Didn't
any
say you
pull.
did.
I'm just
You just
they're
tell
my
them,
buddies.
hey, do this.
Yeah.
It's going to sell.
Yeah,
I'd like to try
because
SRTs.
they'll listen to me. You come out with my signature
I mean,
string set.
How many other, there's how many signatures out there? I know Glenn has his. There's all sorts of signature sets. You just tell them to make you an SIT signature foundations, 50 to 105.
I'm good with the fusion wound.
They can do a signature
I'm
set
good with
called
the
the
fusion
okayest strings, and they can be tape wounds. It'll be great.
Yeah. No, I don't think they have any plans.
The
to
guy
do
who was
tapes.
there was like, no.
But honestly, I will remind me. I will send you a set of the flats, and I bet you they may not be like an exact thing, but I bet you it's closer to tapes.
I
than
sent
what
you
you're
the
used to.
address.
Okay, I'll send them. Just remind
If
me.
I
tomorrow,
remember, I'll remember.
and I'll get them out. You need a 5-string
I mean,
set, don't you?
Probably. I have 2 4-strings, so if you send it, I could swap it to one of those.
Is one a third? Are they like 34 scale? Okay, let me look. I don't know if I have any 5-string
Whatever you
sets.
I'm not going to bitch about
Yeah.
you sending me something for free.
I'll get this. I know you have that.
Yeah, the
Stingray.
Ray 2. It was funny when I did the recordings earlier today. I did all of the, like, in my order of my favorites to my least favorite, and when I got down to the end, it was like the Ray 2, the Jackson Minion, and that 5-string Explorer like kit bass. And I got done and I put those. Well, I didn't make the kit bass. It was one I found at a music shop I go to that someone else had built, but it has like nice Goto hardware. It's done nicely. And when I got done,
No, if you pay,
I only paid like $250 for it. When I got done though, and I hung them up, I looked at my wife. I was like, She goes, what? I said, there's a big difference between basses that cost, a lot and are really well made, and the ones that don't cost a lot and are not really well made. There's a big difference in sound and quality. So I'm not saying you got to spend a lot of money, but I am saying when you don't spend a lot of money, you don't get a whole lot of really, really nice. Which surprises me, because normally I can't hear the difference. So, like on my amp, they all sound fine. But when I was with these on, going straight into the Focusrite, oh, there was a difference.
I'll bet.
But Okie dokie. And yes, I don't know what a trucker mouth is, but I that sounds apt for how I was at Base House, because that's
What is
how I
the?
talk
I
when I'm
mean,
not at work or on YouTube.
does anybody have any questions or anything before we? Guess time.
Says we got 5 watching. If anyone's got something, throw it out. Otherwise, we'll sign off.
You guys gigging? You guys got any? You guys playing this weekend?
No, I'm working on a review this weekend. So.
I'm working on the fact that I don't play anywhere. Except at church when the bassist is gone.
I'm playing in Richmond, Virginia.
There you go. Nice
Mhm.
short drive.
No, but
Yeah.
it'll be fun.
Party starts.
Hmm?
Can I tell them when my party starts?
Sure. I don't know if you can hear him, but my youngest is wanting to let you guys know when his birthday party is.
Oh man,
February 10th.
Oh, that's your birthday, but okay. There you go. Have fun. Say bye, bass. Apparently he expects y'all to be there, so
Hey,
whoever.
I'll book my flight tickets now.
yeah.
Absolutely. Hondo and Chris, you'll both be happy. It's a gymnastics party.
Oh,
yeah.
perfect.
Oh yeah. Bouncy castles and slides, all the fun to be had.
Hit,
Sounds like waking up in pain to me.
yeah. Hit a clothesline for me, I guess.
I mean, to be fair, if you it'd be hard to clothesline any of the other people that'll be there because they're all going to be about 3 foot tall. So
Oh, it'd be easy. You don't have to reach that high.
you can do it after you
probably
fall down.
Probably take like 3 out in a clip. You know.
You just lay. You get to fall on the floor and then just sit up in your right height.
There we go. All right,
Looks like, what is the average land speed of a full-grown male ostrich? So Charles has a question for. I'm pretty sure it's about 38 miles an hour, but I could be wrong.
Yep.
So, all right, guys.
Google might be a better resource than
All right. Thanks for having me. It was fun. Any other time, I'll be happy to come back.
Sounds good. I'll throw it up and we'll see what we have. So that's Chris Volpini. He's a part of a bunch of channels, but 27 miles, fine. I was talking about one that had done a bunch of drugs, but that's fine. So that's Chris. He's involved in like a bunch of channels. They should be in the description.
Yeah. I mean, I'm only with Low End Lobster, but you know, we our network is big, and we were lucky enough to have friends like you guys.
Well, you had Aristotle's channel too.
Yep. But you know, it's I'm all collaborating is so much better than competing, and especially at this stage, you know, none of us are competition for each other anyway. Like they can consume everything. It's not like so there's no point in not sharing resources whenever possible.
Yeah, we're not in competition.
Yeah. But
symbiotic relationships.
Yeah. Rising tide raises all boats, that sort of thing.
Well, except the ones that are sunk to the bottom, but it might move them around a little bit.
All right, don't be a buzzkill.
Yeah.
I'm more of a buzzkill than Buzz Killington.
All right, guys, I'm gonna get off here.
That's Chris. Chris is signing off.
Take it easy, Chris.
And then this right next to me is Hondo. He's got a channel. I will put it. Oh, Hondo, we got bigger. I will put him to the description or in the description. Something. You'll find his channel somewhere, or just search Hondo. He's pretty easy to find. He's got a whole line of instruments named after him. It's pretty great.
Oh yeah, indeed. Yeah.
The Felders.
There's a whole town in Mexico.
They're not that well known. So that's Hondo. And I, of course, have been the okayest bassist. As always, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful day.